Hello everyone, I'm Karine and welcome to this continuation of this page. Before I get started, I want to mention the two tutorials I've already done for this page, the background using Neocolor 2 and the fairy's wings. I will leave the link in the description if you like to check them out. So before I start coloring, I'm going to draw a little bit on my fairy. Since the dress is going to be sheer, I want to make sure I have all the lines in the right places before I begin. This will make things much easier for me later on. I'm not trying to make it absolutely perfect because most of the upper part of the legs is going to be covered by the dress. So I'm starting with the skin color, which will give me a good base to work from. I also really like pulling down all my base colors before I start working on the dress. Everything that will appear underneath the sheer fabric needs to be colored first. The forest in the background, her legs, her skin, and everything else that will show through the dress. Once all of those base colors are done, I can start working on the dress and build the sheer effect on top of it. As you can see, I'm not putting any pressure on my pencil. I'm just lightly coloring because I'm going to be layering the white pencil on top of it later on. And I really want to make sure I can still color over it. If I saturate the paper too much, then I won't be able to layer the white properly. So this is just a quick light layer. Everything is very lightly colored and I am never pressing hard ever. Pay attention to the way I'm holding my pencil. I'm keeping a very light grip. Because she's small, I sometimes have to get a little closer to add more detail, but even then, I'm still using a very light touch. I'm simply putting the color where it needs to go, adding a little bit of shading, and make sure I'm using the right color in the area. Now that I've put all my colors down, I'm going with the colorless blender. And as you can see, when you use the blender, it really brings the color to life. I always use my blender, it works so well. Now that I'm done blending, I'm going over everything with my Posca pen. And I'm starting to work on the dress. I make sure to cover all the lines and not miss any. I'm also adding a few more lines because I want the dress to have a nice flowing look. I just don't think there are enough lines, so I'm just going to add some quite a few more to give it more movement and detail. I also decided to give the dress an upper side cut to show one side of the legs. So I'm making sure the legs that's outside the skirt is a bit darker than the one that's covered by the dress. I'm just going to add a little bit more color to create that difference and make it look more natural. But I do regret not making the slip of the dress a little bit more open. I think that might have looked better, and honestly, I just didn't think of it at the time. I'm lightly erasing the upper part of the dress, and this is going to help me make everything look even softer and blurrier. I'm not going crazy with the eraser, I'm just lifting a little bit of the color, and really, it's going to create that subtle blurry effect I'm looking for. Now I'm adding a little bit of color to the bottom of the dress. It's not going to be very noticeable when I'm all done, but it gives the skirt a subtle shimmer and a hint of color. And really, you can use any color you want. Doesn't have to be orange, of course. If you do use fairy blue or blue, then you add some blue instead. Now I'm using the browns because I love the little bit of gold it adds to the dress. It gives me the exact shade I'm looking for without making it too dark. So I'm not using a gray or black, I'm just using the browns to give me that shade I'm looking for. And mainly adding it to the upper part of the skirt and a little bit on the upper body, but not too much. And again, it's going to give me that soft and blurry effect I'm looking for. I really like the way it's starting to look, and you can see the blurry effect I'm trying to achieve here. So now I'm adding again more color, and of course, those are completely optional. But adding a little bit of color gives the skirt more dimension than having it completely white. And sometimes I add color knowing that I might eventually cover most of it. I don't always know exactly how much I'm going to keep until I see how everything comes together. Even when you can't really see all those colors underneath the dress, they still make a difference. Without them, the skirt will have quite the same effect. It's subtle, but it adds something to it. So now I'm using the blender again because I want to make sure everything is nice, smooth, and well blended. And this is what's going to give me that blurry effect. So here I'm going all over again the area where the Posca is. It does remove a tiny bit of the Posca, but that's okay because I'm going to reapply later on. It might be strange that I done the Posca first before the blender, but and I used the blender already twice. So, but it's all part of the effect I want to give. Now I'm adding the white and I'm going to create that blurry fabric effect again that I'm looking for, almost like a ghostly ethereal style, if you want to call it that way. But as you can see, I can't really stop any stage of the coloring and just say, this is the way I like it and leave it there. And it's because I think it looks very pretty in almost every stage of this coloring. But for me, I feel like it's missing something. I really like this blurry effect, and I think it gives the skirt something really cool and different. So I'm really emphasizing the white and emphasizing some part of the skirt, not everywhere. But I want to make sure that I go everywhere with my white. I don't miss a spot. Now I'm adding more Posca white on top. And I love doing this after I've already made everything blurry because it really enhances that feeling of fabric and movement. By pulling the Posca like this, it really creates this soft blurry base underneath. If I had skipped that first layer of Posca and gone straight to the blender and then the white, I would have not gotten the same effect. So remember, layers are very important to create a movement. I'm adding a little bit of makeup here to give her face some extra color and bring her features to life. And I thought that green would go with the scenery. And I like using browns also again on her, and then I like to use it on the dress. I think it really brings some warmth and color, and it keeps everything soft, delicate, and magical feelings, and it's very harmonious, and that's what I'm looking for. And again, I'm layering the Posca. I'm not necessarily placing it directly over the old lines. Instead, I'm adding a few more here and there, which gives the dress even more of that subtle motion effect. I'm always like to emphasize lines with my white pencil. So I'm sorry, I'm not doing a hair tutorial on this video. I do give you the skin color references, but I'm not going to give you the hair references because I really want to keep the focus on the dress only. Otherwise, the video will be too long, and I don't really like doing a full tutorial on such a small model. For me, it's just not very practical. Now I'm using this thicker Posca pen to make some lines even thicker than the other one. As you think it's going to give even more flow to the dress and movement. Also, I like to use my fun liner, and I really love this part. I just loving doing this. I choose a dark pumpkin shade, and I decided to make some of the lines a little darker. I wasn't originally going to do this, but I think it adds a little bit more definition. It adds also a little bit more of a gold, even if my fine liner is not gold, it's pumpkin, but with that bronze under and then I put it on top of it, it gives of a gold effect. And I really like that. And again, this is completely optional. And as I've said throughout this tutorial, every stage of this dress looks pretty in its own way. You can stop at any point when you reach the look you like. So I ordered this Caran d'Ache Luminance pencil. It's comparable to Prismacolor, but I feel like it gives me a little bit more white and has a very creamy texture. So I mainly use it for this type of coloring. And I'm really emphasizing to color on top of the white Posca to give this, it gives almost a glowy effect by coloring on top of it. I really like it. I really love this coloring. Now I'm going to finish the dress with a little bit of a dot to give a subtle shimmer. Again, this is optional. Without the dots, the dress is still beautiful, but I really love the extra sparkle that it gives. And I really love what it does to the pumpkin colored areas. It makes them look almost gold, which I think looks really beautiful against the white. I'm using this yellow Posca, making some little dot here and there. You probably can't really see the yellow very well from the distance, but up close, you can definitely notice it. It really gives a little bit of shimmery again that I'm looking for. There's also one thing I forgot to record. During my coloring session, I added a little bit more of gold glitter to the dress, especially toward the upper part of the skirt. It really makes the dress look beautiful. Unfortunately, I forgot to film that part for this tutorial, but you'll be able to see it in the full coloring session. At the final part, I'm using the thicker Posca paint again, and I'm only applying and along certain lines to emphasize the fabric and the pleats. So that's it. This is the final part of the tutorial. I hope you enjoy it and it wasn't too complicated. And remember, you can always stop at any stage and keep the version you like best. There is no right or wrong way to finish it. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to likes and comment on this video. I really appreciate all of your comment. And see you in the next video. Bye bye.